Why are millennials and Gen Z struggling with debt? A question that is becoming increasingly urgent in today's society. With the cost of living on the rise and wages remaining stagnant, an alarming number of young adults find themselves in a precarious financial position. This isn't a case of irresponsible spending, but often a result of circumstances beyond their control. The debt dilemma facing these generations is a growing concern, and it's not a niche issue. It's a universal one that affects millions of young adults worldwide. Today we'll be delving into the facts and figures of this crisis, shining a light on the reality of what it's like to be young and in debt. We'll also explore potential solutions and strategies that could help alleviate this financial burden, because understanding the problem is just the first step. Finding a way out, that's the real challenge. The numbers don't lie, and they paint a worrying picture. Let's dive into the details. Scene script. Millennials and Gen Z are drowning in debt, but how deep is the water really? Let's dive into the numbers, shall we? Picture this: the average millennial, someone who's currently in their mid-20s to late 30s, is juggling a debt of over $40,000. Yes, you heard it right, $40,000. And that's not even the deep end of the pool. For many, student loans are the heaviest weights, with the average balance hovering somewhere around $30,000 per borrower. That's a pretty hefty price tag for a cap and gown, isn't it? But it's not just student loans that are dragging millennials and Gen Z down. Credit card debt is another big player in this debt game. The average millennial carries a credit card balance of about $5,000. Moreover, Gen Z, though younger and less financially engaged, aren't far behind. Their average credit card debt is already at $2,500. And let's not forget about other types of loans. Auto loans, personal loans, and even payday loans are all part of the mix. Millennials and Gen Z are turning to these options in an attempt to stay afloat, often leading to a vicious cycle of debt. The real kicker? These numbers have been on a steady climb. Over the past decade, we've seen a significant increase in the average debt levels among these generations. Let's put it into perspective. 10 years ago, the average millennial had about $20,000 in debt. Fast forward to today, and that number has more than doubled. As for Gen Z, they're just starting to build their financial lives. But the early signs show a similar pattern. These numbers are, without a doubt, alarming. They paint a picture of young generations sinking deeper and deeper into a sea of debt. So with these alarming figures, one can't help but wonder, what's driving this surge in debt? The surge in debt among millennials and Gen Z isn't accidental. There are several key drivers to this problem. So what's pushing this debt roller coaster uphill? Let's start with the soaring cost of education. College tuition has skyrocketed, increasing more than 100% in the last 30 years. This means that more students are taking out larger loans, and they're graduating with a mountain of debt before they've even landed their first job. Next, we can't ignore the impact of the 2008 financial crisis. Many of the millennials were just entering the job market during the recession. They not only faced higher unemployment rates but also stagnant wages once they did find work. This double whammy made it harder for them to pay off their student loans and made them more reliant on credit cards for everyday expenses. The changing job market is another major factor. The rise of the gig economy means fewer stable jobs with benefits and more short-term contracts and freelance work. This unpredictability makes it difficult to manage finances, let alone pay off debt. Last but not least, societal pressures. We live in a society where success is often measured by material possessions. The pressure to keep up with the Joneses, to have the latest gadget, the trendiest clothes, or the flashiest car, can lead to overspending and ultimately, debt. And let's not forget about the influence of social media. It's easy to scroll through Instagram or Facebook and feel the need to live up to the seemingly perfect lives we see on our screens. This can lead to what's known as lifestyle inflation, where we spend more as our income increases just to keep up appearances. In short, the debt crisis among millennials and Gen Z is fueled by a combination of higher education costs, the aftermath of the financial crisis, changes in the job market, and societal pressures. Understanding the causes is the first step towards finding solutions. But what can we do to turn the tide? The debt crisis is a complex problem, but it's not insoluble. There are potential solutions that could help alleviate the burden on millennials and Gen Z. Let's delve into some of these solutions, shall we? Firstly, changes in government policy could play a significant role. For instance, implementing policies that lower the cost of education can reduce the need for student loans. How about increasing minimum wages to match the cost of living? That's another policy change that could ease the debt burden on young people. Additionally, we can't ignore the importance of financial education. Many millennials and Gen Zers were never taught how to manage money or understand the implications of debt. Incorporating financial literacy in school curriculums from an early age could help future generations make informed decisions about borrowing and spending. Societal attitudes towards debt also need a rethink. There's no denying that we live in a credit-driven society where it's normal to take on debt to buy a house, a car, or even a smartphone. Perhaps it's time we start promoting a culture of saving and living within our means rather than encouraging debt. Individual strategies for managing debt are also crucial. These can include budgeting, creating an emergency fund, and prioritizing paying off high-interest debt. It might also mean taking on a side gig or freelancing to increase income. It's all about finding a strategy that works for you and sticking to it. And let's not forget about the role of technology. Apps and digital platforms can be powerful tools for managing finances. They can help track spending, automate savings, and provide customized advice to help individuals navigate their financial journey. While these solutions offer hope, they're not a magic bullet. The road to financial stability is often a long and winding one, but remember, every journey begins with a single step. So let's start by acknowledging the problem and exploring these potential solutions, one step at a time. Millennials and Gen Z are facing a tough road ahead, but it's not a dead end. With concerted effort and systemic change, we can turn the tide on the debt crisis. As we look to the horizon, it's clear that our future as a society hinges on our ability to confront and solve the debt crisis. This isn't just about the financial health of our younger generations, it's about the health of our entire social and economic structure. The truth is, the debt crisis isn't just a millennial or Gen Z problem, it's a human problem. It's a challenge that requires our collective action and individual responsibility. We've seen the numbers, we've understood the drivers, and we've explored potential solutions. Now, it's time to act. It's time for our policymakers to create systems that support financial literacy and debt management. It's time for our educational institutions to prepare students for the financial realities of the world they're stepping into. It's time for our corporations to reevaluate their roles in a society where their employees are drowning in debt. But it's not just up to the institutions, it's up to us, as individuals, to take responsibility for our financial futures. It's up to us to educate ourselves, to ask the hard questions, to make the tough decisions. It's up to us to demand change and to be that change. The road ahead may seem daunting, but it's not impassable. We've navigated tough terrains before, and we can do it again. Each step we take towards a more financially secure future is a step towards a more stable and equitable society. It's a step towards a world where debt is not a life sentence but a manageable part of life. The debt crisis is one of the defining issues of our time, but together, we can write a new story for millennials, Gen Z, and generations to come. Let's move forward with hope, determination, and the knowledge that we have the power to change the course of our collective future.